Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli back with another review video, and of course, continuing on with the Planet of the Apes review marathon. And yep, so after the third installment of the Planet of the Apes franchise, and that being the second sequel, Escape. Well, it wouldn't take 20th Century Fox not long yet again to, whip out another Planet of the Apes film a year after Escape, and continuing what happened in the events of Escape, and after, well, because the birth of Zira and Cornelius's child, which thankfully their child survived, and under the care of Armando, and, fast forward 20 years after, what happened in Escape, in North America of 1991, where the third installment takes place. And that's right, guys, the third sequel to Planet of the Apes, which being Conquest. Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. And I'm not doing this alone, because as I teased, and I gave it out at the end of my review of Escape, my dad joining me for Conquest. Finally, because, joining me for the Planet of the Apes review marathon. And like I said, because me and him, we did our review of the first Planet of the Apes film from 1968, that is, if you want to go check that out still. So now he's joining me for one of the sequels, and that being Conquest. And a good reason why he's joining me for this, because a little background on his experience. I mean, not just seeing all the other Planet of the Apes films, but this one in particular. And if you want to go ahead and start with that, or if you want to go ahead and give out your first thoughts and such on the film, you go first. Of
the original Planet of the Apes films, this is the only one I saw on the big screen.
The only one?
The only one.
Huh.
And
assuming as though you saw the others on TV and video later on, so...
A mile from here, down the road.
Yeah.
From where we are now.
Yeah.
There was a movie theater called Hager Theater. And
yes,
on Fridays, or on Thursdays usually, I think Thursdays and Fridays, and maybe even Saturdays, the man that owned the theater had a dark red station wagon with big loudspeakers on top of it. And he would go up and down the road announcing what was playing at the Hager Theater.
Right.
And so this was a one screen theater like they used to be a long, long time ago. And, I think tickets were probably $1.50, maybe $2 to get in. And, and it would be current running movies most of the time. This one was not, of course. What year did this come out? This came out in 72.
72, yeah.
Well, this may have been in the first run when I saw it.
Obviously.
I think it was in 72 when I saw it. I think I was in second grade. So, yeah, it would have been a new film. So they had new films there. And so I went to the theater and saw this right down the road here, where this theater used to be. It's now it turned into a hardware store, and then now it's a trucking company. Trucking company, yeah. So, but you can still see the shape of the building, how it used to look as a movie theater.
Yeah.
And
any buildings, what it used to originally be, and it's no longer what it is, and it's something different, always have the same outside interiors and how the outside of the buildings look. So,
yes. So it was a fascinating movie to me to watch, and it does sort of, as it's described, it does sort of create almost like a time loop of how the Planet of the Apes actually begins, and it's just like time looped the way the whole thing started, because the first movie was the original Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston.
And when Taylor and all the other astronauts, they arrived there, because the planet, which they didn't realize it was home, already inhabited by and ruled by apes.
But it's like they were the ones that set everything in motion. You see, everything was set into motion by George Taylor and his crew arriving on Earth, not realizing that they were on Earth, and then exposing that technology to these intelligent apes who eventually escaped Earth,
Yep.
aka Planet of the Apes, and made it back in time to then present Earth.
Yes.
And this is when Zero and Cornelius' son was born.
And after
they were being chased, they knew they were being chased,
and
so
after
they swapped children, babies.
And after, yeah, because even after the execution / murders of Cornelius and Zira, so
yeah,
their son lived on and survived. And what their son would do? Fast forward 20 years later,
he would liberate the apes, because the apes were turned into Conquest. Planet of the Apes begins. It shows how apes are being used as servants.
Yes.
It shows how it shows them being trained, and there's one ape that goes in. They're teaching him how to wash his hands.
Yeah.
And he actually dries his hands first, and then wets his hands. And
okay.
It was just kind of funny to watch that, how they were training them.
Right, and to stop you right there, like, as always, have to read the description / the story. I mean, you can take it from here, so...
In this third sequel to Planet of the apes turn the tables on the human.
Yep.
Earth population, when they lead a revolt against their... let me start this over. I'm messing it up.
That's fine, it's fine. No, I think you were doing good.
That's
okay.
In this third sequel to Planet of the apes turn the tables on the human Earth population when they lead a revolt against their cruel masters in the distant year of 1990.
Right.
By doing this, it creates the time loop that leads to the first film. Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is cinematically etched in broad, brash strokes, slashing social satire and science fiction suspense with large-scale spectacle. Yeah.
But the actual, like, year and date of when this takes place is 1991, as it says in the movie. Literally, the start of the film.
Right.
It shows that, and right before they show the 20th Century Fox logo, and from there on, the cast and such. So, in North America, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, just in North America, and do you remember the specific name of that building location? Because Conquest taking place in one location.
Remind me.
Well, in North America, and because, where the primates and such, from the orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees, where they're being held and such.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And, because we get the opening credits, and, because we see all the primates and such, because, they're in their own, clothing, because for the gorillas... Well, I'll get to... Don't worry, because I've got it pulled up here, so...
Oh, okay, good.
Because, the gorillas in red clothing, I think, because the orangutans in yellow clothing, and chimpanzees wearing green clothing. So, and very fitting in this movie. And how, after the credits finish, because we see that... Armando, once again being played by Ricardo Montalban, and Caesar, being played by Roddy McDowall, he went from playing the father, Cornelius, to the son, Caesar. So they arrive, and do you remember specifically, because their purpose of being there,
You're talking about in Conquest.
Yes, yeah.
They were there to serve... I mean, the apes were there to serve man.
Yeah.
They were being trained, and they were basically servants.
Yes, but I'm talking about Armando and Caesar, like them being there, them showing up in a helicopter.
No, go ahead. You do that.
Well, don't you know? Because
you go ahead and do that.
No,
part.
you do that. So
no, you do that part because I'm it's fuzzy right now.
All right. Because I forget I mean, with them being there, I guess. Because for one thing, I think because they are a little bit later on as they're making their way down below. The bottom of the building, because I think Armando is and along with Caesar handing out flyers, I guess, and this might have to do with their circus, I guess, I don't know, but anyways, and that's the thing, because how times changed after 20 years, and especially how there's really no more circuses, but to Armando, as long as he's breathing and living, there's still circuses, because him running a circus. I remember we talked about this because off camera and such, and even before we did this, that it's nice because Ricardo Montalban being in two of the Planet of the Apes films, this and the previous one, Escape, how he did play a good character. So
yeah, he did.
And how I think for some people how they've gotten used to Ricardo Montalban playing villains, specifically Khan Noonien Singh.
Yes.
And I forget, what would we make? How would you make on his character in Fantasy Island?
Ricardo Montalban's character on Fantasy Island was his name was Mr. Rourke.
Yeah.
and he was a good guy. He was mysterious,
but not in a bad way.
No, not in a bad way. He was a good guy.
Exactly. So I don't know. That just popped in my head, and also I know I like his character in the first Naked Gun film, because him being evil and such. So yeah.
He was it was hilarious.
Yeah, I think his villain character in the first Naked Gun film was like probably out of any character, probably the serious and kind of really didn't do anything funny. You know, if you get what I'm saying, and if you recall, because
no, it was straight. I mean, it was the funniest thing. You're talking about from his character.
I'm talking about his character in the Naked Gun. Yeah, because I'm
trying to remember his character's name.
You know, he is evil and such, and how just he doesn't really do anything funny. So
well, when he bites into the hot dog and he finds a ring and he takes the ring out, and looks at the ring, and he pulls the finger out.
Okay,
and then he spits it out. That's kind of funny. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but still, like, you know, not that much.
No, I mean
for his character in the first Naked Gun film, where he has funny moments.
When he's standing there and he's looking out the window and Frank Drebin is standing there and he is bitten by the fish. And the fish grabs his nose.
Just him going on talking about something. And
he says, "Do you know what used to be out here?
Do you have any idea what used to be out here?"
He says, "Yeah." He says, "You bet you do. Orange groves."
Yeah. I bet you do. Orange
that
groves.
was absolutely hilarious. Just the way he played that. It was straight. Just the way Leslie Nielsen always played Frank Drebin. Straight, but hilarious.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Go down a rabbit hole on Naked Gun.
I know, yeah.
Ricardo Montalban
Ricardo Montalban. Anything Ricardo Montalban.
He was an excellent actor.
Absolutely.
And oh my gosh, the man had a physique that was amazing.
Yeah.
Because he was a dancer too.
Yep. And what'd you think because of his character and him being a part of the Planet of the Apes franchise? Because obviously I know that you've obviously seen Escape, and that's where he first appears, and then in this, so.
Yeah. It was interesting that in Conquest, you know, his character's a good guy, obviously.
Yes.
He's over a circus, you know.
And I like how, because I know I talked about this when I reviewed Escape, like, how in Escape, he's more than glad to help out, help Zira and Cornelius remain hidden and such in a circus, and until they have to proceed on.
Exactly.
Yeah. And how, well, because, Zira, she switched the baby chimps, and, obviously to keep, hers and Cornelius's child safe, and how after all those years, throughout those 20 years, Armando, looked after their child. So, obviously because he knew it was their child, so... And by the way, because remember, he put that, like, necklace or whatever on him, Francis, Saint, or, that, so...
Exactly.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that. And so, yeah, because them being present in North America and such, and how, well, because, Caesar cannot reveal and expose himself to everybody else that he can talk, and he's the chimp that they've been looking for, the child of Zira and Cornelius, and Armando doing whatever it takes to keep Caesar safe, and by telling him to act like a chimp and such, and to swing his arms and so on. He's got to be more chimp and such. And, just them roaming around, and you see, because all the other, fellow primates of... I'm saying that right, primates?
Primates.
Primates?
Primates,
okay. Caesar's fellow primates, what they're doing and such, and another thing is, like, every time, I guess they screw up or something, like, okay, just two simple words that they say to the primates, like, do, no, and even sometimes go, so, and, and we see, because, like, some of them, like, being janitors, I guess, and being waiters.
Being waiters, serving.
Barbers.
Yes.
Just anything, basically.
Yeah.
And
they were in total servitude to mankind.
Exactly. And also, we find out because apparently, I think sometime in the early 1980s or something, the population of dogs and cats were wiped out. They went extinct.
Yes. Do
you remember specifically, how that...
I don't remember specifically how that happened, but it's...
I think, because it was like... now I remember, because like there was this disease that came from space. And apparently, because only the dogs and cats were affected by this, but not the humans. humans. And as, because Caesar even asked about that, and no, because the humans did not get affected by this, only the dogs and cats did. And then, in the 80s, they were wiped out, and there's even a little memoriam plaque and statues of the cat and dog. So, and because cats and dogs were wiped from existence, that's when because the humans, they wanted to have pets, and because apes, I think, were the solution. So yeah, so
apes were the solution. So I mean, you couldn't teach a dog or a cat to cut somebody's hair, or serve somebody food, or mop floors. I mean, it's just or sweep floors. I mean, it's really weird how that turned out. That the apes ended up being in total servitude to mankind.
True, yeah. And even say there is one chimp, because because when they're handing out the flyers, because there's one female chimp that I think, both that female chimp and Caesar, they have their eyes on each other, I think the chimp's name is Lisa, being played by the late Natalie Trundy. Yeah, so, and then continuing on, because then Armando and Caesar, they experience one incident, I guess, with one, I think it is a gorilla, and just being kind of beaten and such, and no, and so on, and well, and we also get hold on a second, I gotta name the other character, because let me see, where was he? McDonald, who's the assistant or something of the governor, the high assistant.
Yeah.
And how he is on the primates, he respects them and such, and he doesn't want to see anything bad happening to them.
He becomes, he's more of an ally, and you see that in the movie, that he becomes more of an ally.
There you go.
To them.
And there are protesters. There are some protesters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, even because when two policemen, they're taking a gorilla in, and just a little ramble happens, and then because the gorilla doing something, and they're just they're kind of putting a needle and such in him or whatever. And this is after McDonald showed up and when he left. And, because Caesar and Armando witnessing this, and, Caesar's seen one of his fellow primates, how he's being treated, and how he slipped out saying, you lousy human bastards. And, of course, they hear it.
Of course.
And of course they don't see and know that it's Caesar, and Armando, taking, helping out Caesar, having his back, and basically taking the blame, that he said it. And, because Caesar said that, because from there on, what happens next? And, even Caesar running away and Armando catching up, and, I mean, of course, Caesar didn't intentionally mean to do so. What's going to happen next? Well, because Armando, he's going to turn himself in, and he hopes that it won't be long, and, for him to be let go of, and telling Caesar to remain where he's at. But if he doesn't get back in time, then he tells Caesar to be with his fellow primates. Yeah, because in the evening time, late at night, because new primates would be brought in a cage, and thus... Yeah, and then Armando being brought in and such, and that's when we also get the introduction of another one of the main human characters, Governor Breck, being played by the late Don Murray. What do we have to say on the governor in this?
Oh, the governor, what can you say? But very stereotypical, the way he was played, the way he played it, just...
And pardon my French, an asshole, for one thing.
Overbearing, yeah.
One of those human characters in Planet of the Apes.
Yep.
Yeah, and because them questioning Armando, and a callback to the events of Escape, and and Armando once again mentioning about a circus. They are well aware of that, and how we also do get a little cameo of the commission chairman, once again played by the late John Randolph, because them playing a piece of footage that that happened in 1971, because about the execution of Zira and Cornelius and the child, and how it's believed, and the possibility if the child of Zira and Cornelius did get killed or not, got shot, that is.
Exactly.
Yeah, and little do they know at first that Armando has been keeping the child of Zero and Cornelius in his care. So
you have to think that Governor Breck is sort of the opposite. He's sort of the human version of Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas,
the orangutan,
yes,
who was very skeptical, but But the difference
and the difference is, yes, I think I know where you're going. The difference is like Dr. Zayas being well aware of the humans and such and everything,
and that their former superiority over primates.
That's right,
and but he also knows that that humans destroyed the Earth.
Yeah,
basically. So so you begin to understand why he hates humans as much as he does, why he has such disdain for them and looks down on them, because he knows that at one time they destroyed themselves.
Right. And as for Governor Breck, because the difference between Breck and Zayas.
Well, Breck, Breck is just he just sees primates as just throwaways, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean his hatred for the primates.
Exactly.
So, and where the primates are at this point in time. For Caesar, because he does then get into a cage with a group of orangutans, and from there on, because Caesar becoming just like his fellow primates, like in clothing and him being trained and such. Although he does have to act like he's learning and such, and so with that, and they're still keeping Armando hostage and questioning him and such, and questioning him I think it's a drawing / picture, probably from Armando's circus, a drawing of the chimp he has, and asking if that chimp looks anything like Cornelius, and if that chimp is the son of Cornelius, the child that is, and Armando just telling them that it's not, and even though they look a bit similar, even though they're the same, and father and son, but still, because Armando keeping them from knowing that, and because they don't know.
Right.
And to speed things up, because and for Caesar, because anything else to say on with Caesar and him and where he's at now, because he had to join his fellow primates, and because Armando didn't come back yet, so.
Well, I mean, obviously he feels isolated, and he also feels he's also very he's bitter, he's angry, because he sees how his kind has been treated now. He's being treated now, and how they're and it's now he's in reverse. Now he's the captive, where he can, where he's now the captive, where his ancestors or his parents, they were intelligent, they lived a free life, and now here he is captive. So he has to realize that, because Armando had to teach him as he grew older about his heritage. So he had to know, he had to know where he came from and everything. So that has to drive his bitterness and his anger.
Exactly. And here's another thing I did forget to point out, because, as I did say this, Caesar cannot speak, and he cannot speak and be exposed to everybody, because, even Armando explained this to Caesar, that the only talking chimps that the world knows of is, of course, the late Zero and Cornelius, who came from outer space, and having to keep it that way.
Right.
So that way it does Caesar's identity and such, and that he can talk, cannot be revealed.
Right.
So all that the world knows for right now is that Cornelius and Zero were the only two talking chimps, and with the exception of, do you remember the third chimp who was alongside with Cornelius and Zero when they arrived to Earth? It was Dr. Milo.
Yes.
Yeah, and how Milo did not make it halfway into the film, basically.
Yeah.
If you recall, because he was strangled. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So
now it was just now down to 2. So, and the only 2 chimps, talking chimps that the world knew, and with Armando, because, well, by this point, Armando, it seems like he's gonna be let go of, like, because they've gotten all the questions that they needed from Armando, and
he's going to be released.
Exactly, because they think that he's told the truth, but they're not quite done with him. They need him to sign something, I guess, that has to do with, like, about Caesar and how he didn't have Caesar in his care, in his hands and such. And they're using this device to make sure and to get a couple more questions, like to detect if this device that can detect if he's lying or not. And of course it doesn't go that well. And he's refusing to cooperate, and even how he feels like he's a prisoner being held hostage, and they're just telling him to sit down and just get him to cooperate, but he refuses, and hell no, and he just strangling and fighting with one security guy, and then he goes for the window. And that what a demise, is that the correct word? Yeah, demise for Armando. He falls to his death. So, anything on that? Because Armando's death?
Sad, because he was one advocate, that he had, strong advocate.
He was Caesar's last hope.
Right.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, more or less.
Now that Armando's gone, because without Armando, even without Caesar's parents, because boy, does Caesar change. And when, of course, Caesar overhears about this, about the death of Armando, and even because Governor Breck, because, he had a feeling because that circus guy was lying, however he calls him. And, again, Caesar overhearing this, and how he's at one point outside by himself, and even and looking at one of the flyers that they put up. And he's looking at it, and just looking at the word, the /name Armando, and how he's crying and such, and how he kind of shouts, and he just snaps, and he's completely changed. And since, without Armando, because Armando was his last hope, and now it's gone, and thus he's become a different chimpanzee now, and full of rage and vengeance.
And he begins to teach the primates, his fellow primates, how to use weapons.
And it doesn't take that long for him to get all the primates to follow his commands and such. Just when they look up and just stare at him, and just him looking at them and just kind of sometimes nodding his head, they just obey that quick.
He quickly becomes what is called in a pack the alpha male.
Yes.
And he takes over. He becomes the leader.
Yes.
And they all trust him.
And the word revolution is mentioned by Caesar and such, and they, wanting power and all that, so...
Yeah, and who can blame him, really?
Exactly. And I meant to say this, is it possible, and even with, the events of the first Planet of the Apes film, is it possible that probably Caesar was responsible for the birth of Planet of the Apes? If you get what I'm saying,
Caesar was responsible for the birth of the Planet of the Apes.
Even before the events of Conquest, and before... And before Cornelius and Zero time traveled, before they time traveled, Zero and Cornelius, along with Milo, and before the birth of their son Caesar, it is possible that before all that, the events of Escape and Conquest, the creation and birth of the Planet of the Apes, and before Taylor and the astronauts arrived, it was all done by Caesar. I almost said Cornelius.
Yes, and it's
if you know where I'm going with this,
it's basically yes, and that's that time loop. It's sort of like a Back to the Future type thing.
Yeah, I was about to say it's been something like that has been in other movies, most notably Back to the Future.
Okay, so Back to the Future, the almanac, the sports almanac. When what's his name?
Biff Tannen.
Biff Tannen gets a hold of the sports almanac. He starts to predict. He successfully wins all these bets, and he becomes a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
And it's because everything changed. When that sports almanac was stolen, when Marty allowed that sports almanac to be stolen, just like in Star Trek, City on the Edge of Forever, when McCoy goes back, he changes history, which means that there's no future for Starfleet or the Federation.
Yeah, but like those two things, like they are restored and changed. But in the case of Planet of the Apes,
it's
none
not.
whatsoever.
It's not, because it's more of a if dare I say, it's more of an organic progression. It's something that you can't change.
No.
I mean, the only way it could have been changed is if in the future, when George Taylor's crew goes into space, if they knew they could destroy their ship, and it could never be recovered.
And if they didn't go to what was it? What's that word? Hypersleep or what's
hypersleep?
Yeah. If
cryogenic freeze or hypersleep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they had not done that, then maybe possibly they would have done something. So.
Yeah, but they had no way of knowing. They
clearly they did not see this coming. How were they supposed to know?
A series of events set everything in motion that would set up the Planet of the Apes.
Right, exactly.
And it literally started with George Taylor's crew arriving on the Planet of the Apes, which had already been changed. Everything had already escaped from the Planet of the Apes, Conquest, everything had already taken place. Yeah. Think of it. And so that's where the loop starts. Is where George Taylor. I mean, it's pretty brilliant, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
How the whole thing. And I figured that out when I was a kid. I really did. I'm not trying to make myself sound really smart, but I thought, so this is actually the beginning. But it's not the beginning, because it's the beginning of the Planet of the Apes. But all of this was set in motion, from the past.
And even aside from, the next one after this battle, so, but continuing on with the film, because, by this point, Caesar having control, and now his fellow primates are under his command and such, and how they kind of have this, secret, headquarters or something down in a basement, and gathering up all weapons and so on. Mm-hmm. And not all the primates have fallen under Caesar's command, actually. And I think at a certain point, Governor Breck and others are suspecting on one of those chimps, which of course being Caesar, but little do they know it's the actual Caesar. Mm-hmm. So, and even I think at one point, because MacDonald, he's supposed to, being played by the late Harl Rhodes, he's supposed to bring in Caesar. Mm-hmm. And even MacDonald, he doesn't want to do this, and even MacDonald at one point saying in one of those tunnels, and I hope you would understand, whatever he says, and Caesar, he reveals himself to MacDonald, I understand, Mr. MacDonald, and and then having a little conversation, and and Caesar telling MacDonald, they want freedom and, revolution and so on, and MacDonald telling him it may not be possible, and Caesar does understand, and, maybe the next, and so on. Anything on that? Is that part?
No, it's just that, there's no way at that point in time for humans and apes to live together in harmony.
And Caesar being well aware of this, as he says, yes. You can tell, so...
Yeah. Because he knows he's not going to be able to. He knows he's not going to be able to take over without a fight, and without many of his fellow primates being killed. Yeah, which they are.
And even as they established, not all humans in Planet of the Apes are bad. And Caesar, of course, being well aware of that. But but there's a lot of those that, because being the bad ones and such.
That is the wisdom of Caesar.
How they explain.
He does not put all humans into one category as killers. He knows there's good and bad.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Caesar. Yeah, and Caesar being, it's good that Caesar, of course, being well aware of that. Mm-hmm. And Caesar, at one point, he tries to make a run for it, but he is soon, captured by security troops, and he's brought in, I guess, obviously to make sure that it is the Caesar, and if he can talk, and by electrocuting him, basically. Yeah. And his screaming, and Roddy McDowall, because he did a heck of a good job playing Cornelius and then Caesar, father and son.
Roddy McDowall was just an amazing actor all the way around. I absolutely loved Roddy McDowall.
Oh yeah.
a fantastic actor.
Oh yeah, loved by the good old days of Hollywood, and just he was a great guy.
He could pull some great facial expressions. He really could, and
yes,
and he could,
and his eyes, sometimes his eyes popping,
and his eyes. I mean, I go back to that episode of Night Gallery where he appeared.
Oh, and I would also here's another good example: his facial expressions that he does in Fright Night.
Oh, Fright Night is one of my favorite. I'm not a big horror movie fan, but I love that movie only because especially because of Roddy McDowall and because of
and some specific horror films back then. How they were done. So, like Fright Night, for example.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but the Night Gallery, because that's a good example. And again, as I said, Fright Night, two good examples of Roddy McDowall and how he could really pull off some good face performances, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And what do you think? Because how he performed / played both father and son, Cornelius and Caesar, there's a difference, is there?
There is a difference
with the two characters he played.
There is a difference, and
because I've been trying to see that because when looking at when he played Cornelius and Caesar, that's what I was trying to do, just trying to see the difference and how the performance of those characters, their personalities, and so on.
Caesar has a rougher edge and he's younger, obviously.
Yeah,
he's
true.
Much younger than his father, so his maturity level is much less. Roddy McDowall had to see that, and that had to be a challenge for him to play that part, to play both father and son.
True.
Himself playing both those roles, and to
think it didn't take
change those dynamics,
and to think it didn't take him that long to going from playing the father and son, because Escape came out a year before Conquest. And
I mean, it's extraordinary what an actor he was. It really is. You see, and anybody can laugh, say, "Oh, Planet of the Apes, give me a bit." You know what? There was some really good acting in those movies. There were some really good plot lines in those movies.
And for those who have not seen them, you think that wait until you see them. You have to watch them, and you will be amazed and blown.
The original movies. I'm not talking about these new ones. I'm not talking about all due respect to Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
Just one. He did that one.
He did that one, and the other Planet of the Apes. All due respect to those.
They did turn out good.
They're fine.
They did.
The original, they look more realistic. They're more. I think they're more humanized, and I think the plot is much stronger than the others. That's my opinion.
Well, Tim Burton's one, that was practical with the apes and the primates and such, and the makeup looked fantastic in that too. So
yeah,
but
you're talking about a lot of CGI too.
Yeah,
right?
But not Tim Burton's. Okay,
right.
So you should know that.
Yeah, I do know that. But there were some special effects that were used in that were not used in the original. Running on all fours. Some of the apes running on all fours and all that. Yeah. So that was definitely CGI. That was not humans running on all fours.
I don't know. I mean, looking at the behind the scenes, I'll have to go back and look. But I'm pretty sure but that's enough. But talk about that later. But anyways, that's another story.
Well, they could have had them on. They could have had them on cables too.
That's a good point. That's a good possibility. Yeah. Which I'm probably sure that's what it was. But back to Conquest, because still, I mean, all Planet of the Apes. We're talking about Planet of the Apes. Anyways, but with Conquest, because they're torturing and electrocuting Caesar, and again, just Roddy McDowall's performance as Caesar in that, and how he's screaming in pain, and through the speakers, talk, and then at one point, because when they turn down the volume and such of the electric shock, he does let out a couple words, have pity. And thus they now know it's Caesar, it's the child of Cornelius and Zira, and Governor Breck being amazed by this and such. And a nice move on MacDonald, again, because him being the ally, what he does is that he kind of steps out of the room, because he was in the same room with Governor Breck, and he kind of goes, I guess you could say backstage, I want to say, and he kind of goes into this one room with all the electronic stuff and such, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And what he does is that he does notice this, and perfect timing for him to do this, and because they were going to electrocute him once again, he turns off the switches where it supports and what's the word produces, I guess you could say, that's another word, produces the electrocution, doing what they're doing to Caesar, turns it off, and Caesar, quick enough to realize that, because they're not working, and he can see, and, he has to pretend and act like he's being electrocuted, and basically they were going to kill him, and he has to pretend that he's being really electrocuted and let out, and, pretend to be dead, and they suspect that he's dead, and once Governor Breck and others, they leave the room and only one security guy is there, and obviously soon going to dispose Caesar's body, Caesar very quietly sneaking upon him and strangling him to death. So, yep. And what would happen next? Well, because it wouldn't take Caesar too long to rally up his fellow primates and, take on, the security guys and such. And, because really good action sequences that take place in Conquest, don't you think?
Really good action
And where
sequences.
The primates, they let those humans have it, how they've treated them.
Yep.
And even them trying to fight back, and even one guy I can remember where he ignites a flamethrower, and one of the gorillas tackles right behind him. Even outside, because a group of primates coming face to face with a security force, go home and prepare to fire and such. There are some that get killed, but then Caesar and all the others, they of course go after them, and not to mention, because a couple up above, they throw a couple of nets on top of them, and them just obviously beating them to death, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even pouring some gas liquid and such, fire, and setting some places on fire, and and to speed things up still, because they whip out the guns and such, and even Governor Breck and all the others, because they're in this one room, and how there are a couple of other primates still under their orders. Well, by this point they start to attack them, but some of them get killed. Governor Breck orders a couple of security guys to shoot them, and then they're Caesar and all the others, they're trying to break in, and with lighting up the door and such, tearing it down. And even Governor Breck, they should know how to be doing this stuff. Those moments where Governor Breck just, pardon my French, just loses his shit,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
true.
It's true.
And it's he's a madman, basically. Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you say so?
He's driven by fear. He's driven by...
There you go.
And that is what's driving, is fear.
There you go,
because he knows it's the end.
He knows, and he's just trying to do his damnedest, I should say, to see if he can try to defeat them. Even though he should, obviously, I think he should know. Even though he's trying his best, he's failing. He's losing. They're losing to fighting against the primates and Caesar. And once they break in, because they kill and dispose of the humans, and all that's left are, say, McDonald and Armando. And a couple of others we forgot to mention, because, there's also Culp, being played by the late Severn
Darden.
Yeah, and Busboy. Busboy being played by the late Lou Wagner. Anything to say on those characters?
Nothing right now.
I mean, Culp would have another big role in the next installment, as well as McDonald in Battle, not Escape. Mm-hmm. And there's also Mrs. Riley and Hoskins. But yeah, so by this point, and also, there was Gorilla Frank, being played by the late Buck Cartelian.
Cartelian.
Thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, this movie didn't really have a big cast, honestly.
It didn't. So, not a big cast.
Okay. But by this point, Governor Breck held hostage by them, and, Caesar and Governor Breck, for sure, meeting face to face, and anything to say on that part, and with that dialogue, that conversation between Caesar and Governor Breck, and with Caesar confronting Breck on how they're treating them and such.
Yeah, but the one thing I remember is pretty much Caesar's last words, and I wouldn't get it. In
the climax and up towards the end of the film, they're outside and there's fire going on, and McDonald confronting Caesar about this. And him being a relative of slavery and such, because of his his ancestors, I guess you could say, and just confronting Caesar about this and such. But at a certain point, because Caesar, he realizes that maybe this is not the direction they should go with. Even one of the primates, one of the chimpanzees, Lisa, which, yeah, because we didn't talk about Lisa that much. Like, anything on the female chimp, Lisa?
Lisa she played in 3 different Planet of the Apes movies.
Well, I don't think she was in Escape. No, she wasn't.
Okay, she was definitely in Conquest and Battle.
Yeah, I have to look at that again, because I'm pretty sure she'd have to be in Battle, because, clearly, because Lisa and Caesar, they hit it off in this movie, so...
Yeah.
So Lisa having, actually, because, she gets to speak, being one of the first of the primates, aside from Caesar, to talk and saying, no, like telling Caesar, no, like, this isn't what they should be doing. And, well, because they don't do so. They don't go ravage and such, and, Caesar giving that speech into, we put our weapons down, and so on. Like, you have anything to say on that? That speech?
No, it was...
Because you were about to say so, but yeah, go ahead.
It showed their level of intelligence had gotten above humans in terms of belligerence, because what they did by throwing down their weapons, it was a signal of non-belligerence. Mm-hmm. But the humans were totally belligerent and had almost flip-flopped, that they were now primitive, where the apes were now intelligent.
Yeah.
And those last words when he says, and I messed this up, I know, but he says something effective, you have witnessed...
Tonight, we have witnessed the birth
of the Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes, and all of them just chanting.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how the movie ends.
Yeah.
The screen fades to black, and we just hear one last bit of, like, chanting of the primates, and it just goes silent, and with the cast credits rolling.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
What a heck of a way to end that off.
Oh, yeah. Pretty dark, but also, there is some hope there, too. So
yeah. And how? Because, the more we talked about this, because, it's official, because this is where, in Conquest, we actually witness the birth, the beginning, how it all began, of Planet of the Apes.
Exactly.
And like we said, because apparently this is what happened before the events of Escape and Conquest, that this apparently happened, by Caesar's doing, and before Taylor and the astronauts came back.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened.
So I rate this at the top.
The last things we have to say on the film, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. It's one of the top, great, sequels to Planet of the Apes. This and Escape, wouldn't you say so?
Yes, I agree.
I think for Escape and Conquest, they're definitely considered some of the best 2 in the original Planet of the Apes films, aside from the first one, that is.
The first one's the best.
The sequels, that is.
Yes, the sequels. Those 2 are the best of the sequels, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, but for, say, Beneath, it was okay. I mean, how'd you feel in Beneath?
Beneath was a little, it was not my favorite at all. It was, it got a little, it definitely went a little sideways for me a couple times. So
so with Conquest, what a great Planet of the Apes sequel this turned out. The story, and with the characters, some dark stuff to it, of course, and a bit of funny moments here and there, of course, and and what happens at the end, and right there, the creation and birth of Planet of the Apes, just fantastic. And the music too was good, right?
Music was very good, yes.
Yep. Just everything about it, and the action stuff and such. And, and fun fact, because Conquest had some really dark stuff to it. Does that sound right?
Conquest did have some really dark stuff to it, yes.
But, that's what made this Planet of the Apes film so good.
I agree.
And the fact is, because with Conquest having so much dark stuff to it, for the next installment, and, a year after Conquest came out, Battle, it had to be toned down for family and such.
Oh, yeah.
But I think Battle, it turned out fine, don't you think?
I agree.
Yeah.
It did.
Okay, but now we can come to rating Conquest. How do you rate it, starting with you?
Conquest, I give it, all of the movies, I would give them a 4.5. I give 5 stars to the first Planet of the Apes, the original with Charlton Heston.
Yeah, and again,
these I give a 4.5, almost a 5. But they're just the only reason I cut them short is because they're just not as good as the original.
Yeah, I mean, they're not bad, but they can. But even with the sequels, even for Escape and Conquest being so good, could never top off the original / first.
Right, and I would say Beneath the Planet of the Apes, I would probably end up giving that about 3 stars instead of 4.5.
Okay.
So
again, what's your rating on Conquest?
Conquest, I'm going to give it a solid 4.5, 4.5 stars.
Okay. All right, and for me, well, I mean, I'm giving it 10 out of 10 stars. 10 out of 10 stars for Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. This, and again, Escape being the best 2 sequels of Planet of the Apes, with the original, that is, and, yeah, just, what more do we have to say? Because, you know, right after Escape, you know, there would be another great Planet of the Apes sequel, which being this. It did not disappoint. Nope. So, yeah, what about you guys? What did you think of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes itself? Is it one of your favorite of the Planet of the Apes films? Like, you know, sequels, Planet of the Apes sequels, that is. You know, did you enjoy some of the dark stuff and, you know, what was going on in it? And the fact, because this was where the birth and creation of Planet of the Apes began. And with Roddy McDowall, this time playing the son, Caesar. Just, yeah, what did you think of it? And what did you think of me and my dad's review of Conquest? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with that being said, thank you very much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed our review of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and we'll see you guys in the next video / review. And of course, the Planet of the Apes review marathon is still continuing. One more of the legacy films, correct? Because yeah, even because a DVD of a DVD collection of the Planet of the Apes films, it labels it as the legacy collection. So, and any quick things on Battle? You know,
Battle. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but from what I remembered, it was a good movie. It was more in harmony with human and ape. You know, so it wasn't as adversarial as it had been, with the exception of one general that was played by Claude Akins, who was against the humans, and he and Caesar ended up going at each other in the end.
Yeah.
Which Caesar wins.
Of course.
It's not really a spoiler because the movie has been around for years. So.
Obviously. Any of you guys who have seen Battle already, and Paul Williams, the fact that Paul Williams is an orangutan in this. So he's one of the doctors, I think, well, just like the position of Zeus, you know, the orangutans for that. And your quick rating on it?
On Battle?
Yeah, I mean, unless if it's just
I would still give Battle 4.5.
Unless if I'm just going to be it's just going to be myself reviewing it.
No, it will, but I'll go ahead and give you my review ahead of time. It's a solid 4.5. It was a good movie.
Right, and as you did on the other Planet of the Apes films.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what Little Blue has to say on Battle. And yep, because for Battle, it's just going to be me, and wait till you guys have to see what I have to say about Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which, again, coming out a year after Conquest, and the fact that Battle would be, at the time, the last of the Planet of the Apes films.
Correct.
And after that, there would be there would be TV shows of Planet of the Apes, and after that, Planet of the Apes kind of was laid to rest.
Yep, for quite a while.
Yep, but I'll talk more about that when I talk about Battle and the other Planet of the Apes films. Thank you for watching, take care, and peace out.